Welcome to Let's Talk Brock.
Okay, welcome to this episode of the Let's Talk Brock podcast. Today I am joined by Alex Rankin, a graduate of our Applied Linguistics program, the Speech and Language Sciences program. Alex talks about her experiences with us today in this program and the various ways that she's involved as a student, and also what has led her to her role now working for the Niagara Region. Thanks so much for joining us today, Alex.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to
chat. It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. It'll be so nice to hear about your experiences. To get started, if you can take yourself back to when you were deciding where to go post-secondary, what made you choose Brock and why did you decide specifically on applied linguistics?
So first on why I chose Brock, I guess. A major part of it is I wasn't really ready to be far away from home. I really liked Niagara. I had a lot of friends in Niagara, and I wasn't really ready to make a huge change. And I had a lot of friends that I worked with who were already attending Brock and who had all great things to say about Brock. So it seemed like a good choice, but also a comfortable choice at the same time. And then I had a friend that I worked with who was actually in the applied linguistics program. And when I was in grade 11 or 12, I actually did a co-op with the Niagara Peninsula Children's Center, where I got to work in one of the classrooms, and there was a speech language pathologist who would come into the classroom to work with the students, which I found just super interesting, and I really became interested in that field of work. And then after talking with my friend that I was working with at the time, she really sold the program for me. And so it just seemed like a great fit all around, both school and program wise.
That's so funny. What a small world. We have that in common. I actually volunteered at the Niagara Children's Center in second year.
No way.
Yeah, it was a really great opportunity. That's really cool.
It's such a great spot. I loved it so much.
Yeah, it was amazing. What did you participate as far as experiential learning opportunities go, or even education trips while you were a student?
So unfortunately, very limited. I wish that I knew more about the opportunities and experiences earlier in my time at Brock. Unfortunately, I honestly wasn't super aware of them until I was in fourth year. And then it seemed a bit ambitious to try and, get everything done in 1 year, especially when I was trying to apply to grad school and everything like that. So unfortunately, I don't have a ton of experience in those areas, but I really wish that I would have discovered them earlier and been able to get involved.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of that, do you have any advice for any people who are coming in, who are trying to enter the applied linguistics program?
I think a big part of it for me was volunteering. There's so many different areas of speech and language sciences that you can pursue a career in or even study. And so I think a big part of it, even just beyond volunteering with the Niagara Peninsula Children's Center and seeing kind of that aspect of speech, I then went on to volunteer at Shaver. They have an augmentative and alternative communications clinic, which is all about using different digital mediums to assist people who might have like ALS, for example, who are in the process of losing their voice. So I think a big part of it is finding out what interests you and why you're pursuing that field in the first place. I think that's a big piece of going into the field.
Yeah, for sure. I think also a big part of that, I think for people listening, when you're trying to navigate that, I think networking is huge for that. Getting
absolutely
with professors and everything, for sure.
Absolutely. And even, if you are looking into one area of it and it might not be the perfect fit for you, connecting with professionals and seeing who their connections are in the industry and pursuing it that way as well.
Absolutely. After you graduated from Brock, you went on to complete a master's in public administration and policy studies. What made you choose this path?
So when I was at Brock, I really loved the program, but I wasn't sure if going into the clinical side of speech and language was for me at the end of the day. And so I think it was in third year, one of the required courses is on discourse and all about just communicating in different ways. And that really intrigued me. And so I wanted to pursue something more on the writing side of speech and language, I guess. And so I started to look into different master's programs, and I decided not to apply to any of the SLP programs that were out there at the time. So I started to look into more global communications as well as policy writing. And the Queen's program seemed like the best fit for me at that time. It was a year master's, which I liked the idea of. And so I decided to pursue that direction. I had also already had experience working in the government. I was already working in public health at the time as a student. So I felt it fit kind of the best of both worlds at the time. It let me to still pursue that kind of communication stream, but I also had this interest in the healthcare sector, and pursuing health policy at the time seemed like a good mix of both of those worlds.
Yeah, awesome. Once you graduated in 2017. What jobs have you had? What have you been up to?
So I went directly to Queen's following Brock in 2017. I was there for a year, and then I actually went and did a graduate diploma at Niagara College immediately following my time at Queen's. And so when I was at Niagara, I did a graduate diploma in public relations. So during that time, I was still working at public health, but in a engagement and outreach role, where I was connecting with youth throughout the region. But following, I guess, kind of my career progression, once I graduated from Niagara, I worked for an organization which is now called, I think, the Young Carers Association. It was called the Young Carers Initiative when I was working there. And they run a program for young carers. So this could be any child or youth who either care for a sibling or a parent who might have like an illness, or they might have parents whose English isn't their first language, and so they assist their parents in that way. And so I was working in a digital engagement and marketing role for them. So I worked in that role for about 2 or 3 months. And then I actually moved back over to public health, where I had been for many years before that. And originally I was in a communications advisor role where I was supporting an internal project. And then most recently within public health, I've switched roles again, and now I'm a program digital engagement advisor, and I support our parenting brand through the family health division. So, yeah.
Very cool. Could you speak a little bit about your role currently in the Niagara region? What's it like? What do you like about it? And really, how did you get there?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was kind of finishing off my path of education, I guess, I did a co-op at the region. And so I got to meet the team there as well. I think like a big part of my journey was that I was never somebody who had my sight set on a very specific career path. I was never like, oh, I really want to be a nurse, or like, I really want to be an accountant, like those more vocational careers, I guess. I just kind of went on this path and ended up where I am. And so every step of the way, although it might not have been exactly what I thought I wanted to do and I would keep progressing, I think a major thing is the transferable skills that I gained throughout my path. So a big part of my time at Brock was networking and then really developing my love of writing, which led me through all of these steps. But through that networking, I was able to meet so many people who worked at public health in different areas. And then I was working there as a student as a result. So when I finally made my way back to the region, it was really nice because I already had a lot of familiar faces within, I guess, my workplace. So on a day-to-day basis, I support our Facebook and Twitter pages for the Niagara Parents brand, as well as advise on digital engagement throughout the program. So this could look like creating social posts, editing content, editing videos, filming videos, taking photos. It's been impacted a bit from COVID, so I've been out supporting some of the mass immunization clinics, taking photos and doing interviews there. So it's been different day to day recently, but in my normal day to day role, I'm really supporting that digital engagement and outreach of our parenting services at the region.
Very cool. I think everyone right now can relate to their role shifting a little bit, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
You speak of networking a lot throughout your time at Brock as a student. I'm wondering if you did have any on-campus jobs and how did that look for you?
Yeah, for sure. So in the summer of 2016, I guess it would have been, I was a Smart Start team assistant, which was by far, like, I think my favorite student job I ever had. It was such a fun summer. We got to connect with so many people. And honestly, I would recommend that job to anybody who's even like has a little thought about applying. 100%, I definitely would recommend it. Not only was like the team atmosphere great, it was just so amazing getting to meet so many people across the university. I think it's so easy to get stuck in your own little bubble when you're in your program. You're taking classes with, by fourth year, it might be with the same 30 people are in every class. So being able to make friends who were in completely different programs, like fields that I was in, was a really cool opportunity. And I mean, some of those people are still friends that I talk to every day, which is amazing. And then following that, I moved into the Brock Ambassador role, so campus tours, which was just so much fun. I loved just engaging with future students and prospective students and just being able to really share my love of Brock and my passion for the school and answering any questions and just really being able to share why Brock is such a good fit for so many different people. So I would say looking back and reflecting on my time at Brock, I absolutely loved my program and I loved the people I got to meet, but having an on-campus job was like by far my best memory of my entire 4 years at Brock.
I completely agree. It's funny. We have very similar experiences. I worked in Smart Start and now I'm a Brock
Okay.
Ambassador. It's working on campus. I would also highly recommend it. It's such an incredible opportunity to meet people and learn so much about yourself as a student too.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was like such a good summer. And you're just hanging out. It's essentially like you're being paid to hang out with so many people that are just like the same age as you and just have the same interest to a degree and connect with so many different people from so many different areas, which is awesome.
Such a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Leaving Brock, I'm interested to hear what kind of impact the university and your experience left on you personally and professionally. How did the Brock experience help you grow your business and you as a professional?
Yeah. Like I mentioned before, so many transferable skills I took from Brock. I think it really, you know, elevated from like first to fourth year. You really feel yourself almost like coming into your own form of professionalism, I guess. Like, just like, yeah, like the skills of just how to like connect with somebody, how to, reach out to somebody by email, writing essays, like the critical writing, critical thinking. I just think those skills that I learned like early on in my time at Brock have carried me through to through my professional career as well. There's so many things that I learned that I use day to day. And just also the connections I made at Brock were huge. I know, reaching out for professional references, I've been able to connect with people that I met at Brock, or even just like, if I have an idea or like something I'm stuck with at work, I know there's so many people that I met in my time there that I can reach out to and be like, hey, would you mind if I just ran this by you quick? And they'll give me their honest opinion. So I think, the skills, but also the people I met have really supported me and carried me through my journey. There was definitely times like as soon as I left Brock and went to Queens, like Queens was an amazing school and I loved Kingston, but there was always times where I was like, oh, it's Brock homecoming, I got to go back. Like it was just such a amazing community and just a feeling of family, almost like you're walking down the hall and you see, 10, 15 people on your way to class. It's just such an amazing feeling of community. And I think Brock being that kind of like mid-sized school really, really helps foster that. I think, some of the larger schools, you can kind of get lost in the mix maybe. But Brock, I just felt like it was home. It was such an amazing experience.
I have to agree. I think the community feel at Brock is what brings so many people to the university, and personally, it's what continues to amaze me about Brock for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, that's actually all we have today, so I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your Brock experience with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's so nice chatting.
You too.
Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, you can contact us by email at futurestudent@brocku.ca.